So we're going to talk a little bit about collecting and preservation. This is a picture of a unit tray of Aspisoma, an Aspisoma species. This is Aspisoma ignitum, the one that we have here in Florida or in Texas, but this one is, these are all from Grenada. And yeah, so this is how we keep our specimens in the museum. This is not feasible for everyone, but you can see the different labels that are on them. They all have information on them that are very informative for us when we do studies over time, like how many fireflies were there in 1930 compared to 2020, and things like that we can do with this. Because we're talking about collecting, we're going to talk a little bit about survey safety again. And we talked about this yesterday, but again, make sure you have permission. Don't go alone, preferably. You talk a friend into go firefly hunting, or a whole group of you guys, share this great experience being outside and looking at fireflies with your friends or your family, maybe. If you do go alone, make sure someone knows where you went and when you went there, and make sure that you tell someone when you're planning on being home. So if something happens, then now someone knows where you were and stuff. So please, like that, and be in your comfort zone. If you're out in the dark and you keep hearing things that you don't know what they are, every time I go out at night, I hear little critter like raccoons and things like that running around in the leaves, and your ears are so like concentrating because you can't see well that you hear these very loud magnified sounds, and I have to remind myself it's like just a raccoon or something else. So be comfortable. If you're not, it's better to leave and come back with a friend or so. Reflective vest because of hunting. Even if you're in a park where you don't think there's hunting allowed, make sure you do have that. Long sleeve, sturdy shoes, and depending where you are, if you know there's venomous snakes around, make sure you have some kind of a snake gaiter or some kind of very protective pants or so, and good shoes. Make sure you are protected and safe from whatever is out there. We have coral snakes around here and water moccasins, so I always am on the lookout for that and make sure that I have good clothing on. Daytime scouting. If you're somewhere for the first time, make yourself familiar. It's not worth it to go out at night without light, to be in an area where you don't know. You might fall into a river because you didn't think, you lose your footing, or there was a stone you stumbled on. Be sure you know about, it's very different at night, but you will know, if you know your surroundings, you can protect yourself from harm. And last, your safety and well-being is more important than any observation you could possibly make. So be safe. Regulations again. Make sure you know where you are, who is in charge of the area. Catch and release, catch and collect. Which one can you do? Can you just take pictures in natural setting, like sitting on a leaf, landing on a tree or something like that? Or can you actually, catch them, take them to your car, maybe take a picture, go back, release them? Or if you collect, if you have vouchers that you have videos for and genitalia dissected, and you don't have your own collection, and you don't want to have your own collection, look at the next natural history museum in your area, donate them to them so they are preserved for future research and accessible by any kind of researcher. Everyone can come to us here at Florida State Collection of Arthropods, and scientists and can request loans, so we send them the fireflies. You as the public, you can come and request a tour. We will show you what we have. I can talk about fireflies with you if you come to Gainesville. And that's the same in most every other museum. You can probably get tour in the back and see some of the specimens that they have, because in most museums what you see is maybe 2%, 3% of what the museum has. We have 10 million specimens here that are pinned. The McGuire Center, which is right next to us, has millions and millions of butterflies, but you can only see in the public area a small percentage of them. So, if you are interested, then you can contact a museum and maybe get a tour and get to see all the diversity that's being kept in these museums. Oh, Paul said ticks. Yes, be aware of ticks. I have a vial somewhere here with the ticks I collected last night. Didn't want to bring any home, but they did come anyway. So be aware, and especially further north, make sure you don't get ticks because all the diseases they can transmit and stuff. So be aware. Check yourself when you get home. Equipment again. Camera or mobile phone, whichever you have. Don't spend unnecessary money to get a better camera. If you don't want to, or don't have to, bring your Firefly Atlas data sheets. If you are participating in the survey, I know not everyone online does. Survey protocol instructions, again, also on the website. The red bulb or filter for your headlamp. Don't forget the headlamp. I did last night. We got through the forest and we were both like, oh, don't have a headlamp, so we had to use our phones every so often, but I don't usually use it. Reflective vest again, your voice recorder or your phone, so you can keep notes. And again, I said voice recorder is better than your phone because of the light your phone emits. Insect net. You can buy insect nets on Amazon. They're fairly cheap there. They're not the greatest. There's some more specialized places you can buy them. And better nets, a net can go anywhere from $10 to several $100s, depending on how good it is, how long it will last, and how long it is. You can make your own net. There's all kinds of possibilities. You want to have at least a 6-foot net, I'd say, so you can reach out to get fireflies in case you want to stay on the path and you want to reach over like some vegetation to catch them. BioQuip is not there anymore. It was a supplier of nets, so currently I'm not sure if there's a good supplier, but there's some new businesses actually popping up lately, so some of them might soon provide us with nets again, hopefully. Take some transparent containers like these. I have these glass vials with a plastic thing, or I have plastic vials that you can buy. I take these. If you want to keep the fireflies alive a little longer, you can always put a little piece of apple and a slightly wet piece of paper towel in there. That keeps them alive a little longer. If you're planning to take pictures at home and stuff like that, if you catch for tourists, do not ever put more than one firefly in a vial. They will start, if there's a female included in your collection, they will start eating each other. They will start eating the males. They will rip the legs off, they will rip the head off. So do not, I usually put exactly one firefly in each vial. And then a clipboard and a thermometer. Very important, thermometer. This is from Jim Lloyd's book, so this technique may or may not work for you. You might want to adjust this and make it different. But he would always hang his thermometer somewhere, so he wouldn't have to carry it. He would look for a population of several males, so look for mostly flying things, flying ones to, that emit the same flash pattern. So if you see a group of fireflies that have different flash patterns, that's probably not the best way to start out. Look for a spot where there's all the same. Ignore perched or stressed individuals. Perched are probably females, and stressed ones will change their flash pattern. So if I catch a firefly, and I have one here in the vial, if I shake the vial at night, it will start flashing, but it will do a very different flash pattern of the one that it does during its normal flight, because stressed fireflies will do very weird flash patterns. I've seen the same species being caught by a spider, and the spider would start wrapping it, and then the same firefly would actually turn the light on completely and never turn it off, and would just do a continuous glow in the net. And interestingly, the spider would never eat it, but the glowing would just go on. And then observe for at least 10, 15 minutes, probably, the height of flight, the speed, the flash pattern. Just watch. And then start following individuals, and don't get distracted. Like I said, it's easy to get distracted in the field. Don't get distracted. Just follow that firefly and watch, and start recording maybe your flash pattern. So take your stopwatch and follow that individual, and take times in between. You know, how long is the flash? How long is the flash interval? Those things. Start taking that. Or with a phone, like a voice recorder, make sounds for the length of the flash, the interval. There's different things you can do. Or, you know, you could have a piece of paper you don't have to see, but you could, you know, make a line or draw a line on your piece of paper for the length of the flash, then leave it off, and then draw another line or so that you can somehow measure later. Keep watching, and then keep watching the flash patterns and record more data. And then after that, try to catch this one individual that you observed. Try to be able to catch that, so you have your voucher. And then at the end of the night, this one observation, record your temperature, because overnight, over time of your observations, your temperature will change, so your flash pattern will slightly change. And that will also then, after many, many, many individuals, will give you data on the temperature changes of the flash pattern. But this is what Jim did. You have to figure out what works best for you. For preservations of your samples, there's different ways of doing this. So in the field, you can use a killing jar. If you have taken an entomology course, you might know that killing jars can be set up, and it's usually like a glass jar with a plaster of Paris at the bottom and sawdust, some kind of, you know, stopper or your lid, and there go chemicals in that. Cyanide crystals, which are very potent and hard to get nowadays. Ethyl acetate is also one that I do not use killing jars anymore, because I get headaches from the chemicals. So I stopped using them. I will kill in alcohol, in ethanol. I try to kill in 95% ethanol. If I take fireflies, and I have in the field, I will take these plastic vials. They are 2 millimeter molecular vials. I will fill them half with ethanol, and I will take them in the field, and I will drop the firefly in here in the field. If I take them home alive and I didn't kill them, I will put them in the freezer. Both of them are very humane ways. I know killing fireflies is controversial with some people, or any insect overall, but it is sometimes necessary for studies, ecology studies, or taxonomic systematic studies. Can't always be avoided. Especially for molecular, it's best to just kill them or drop them into alcohol, ethanol, and that way you have a good voucher that the DNA is preserved. And that's what I usually do in the field. Like, I have a bunch of these 2 millimeter vials with me, and like, you can buy these on Amazon fairly cheap. They're like $30 for 500 or so, certain brands. If you want really good ones, they can go up to a couple $100. But those are like mostly an overkill, unless you do like, you want to freeze them over long term and stuff before doing anything with them. Then curation. You need a few things. On the top there, you have a pinning block. You can buy these on Amazon or other websites. This one is not a standard one. This one was made for me. It has holes in the top for the pin. If you can see that, it has like a bunch of holes in it where the pin, where like I have a pin here, and the pin can go into the hole when you pin the insect. You want some forceps, either straight or bent like the picture. Usually some very fine ones are good, or a few broader ones as well. If you are afraid to crush it, you can get some soft forceps that are a little better to not crush things. Pins, you can get these envelopes with, they have 100 pins in them. Again, you can buy them at Amazon right now, or Carolina Scientific or something like that. Make sure if you actually pin an insect for long-term preservation that you use insect pins. Do not use sewing pins. These are museum grade pins. They do not rust, and so they are for the long-term preservation, while sewing pins and things like that will rust, and they will not be good for long-term preservation of your insect. There's two ways to do this. So this is a pinned specimen. You can see on the left side, the pin goes through, and it's kind of supposed to be straight on every axis. So the insect is supposed to be perpendicular to the pin, and so you preserve, like, it's easier to look at. There's a label underneath. The first label underneath the specimen has your locality information, and you can be as detailed as you want. We usually put the country in it, the state, the county for America. You can say I was 2 miles away from Main Road, south from Main Road, or I was in this forest. You put the date on it, and you put your name as the collector on it. That's basically the bare bone minimum you should put on a label. You can put your GPS coordinates on it if you have them. All of that. On the bottom there, the second label is the identification label. So I identified this firefly from Guadeloupe as an Aspergilloma species, and I put a label underneath that has the species name, the scientific name, the who described it, and then also it says determined by Oliver Keller in 2021. And this is what we do with fireflies that are bigger than a centimeter. If they go smaller than a centimeter, we use a different way. But here on the right side, you can see we pin the insect on the right side of in the right elytron, not in the middle of the insect, but on the right side. And we do that so when the pin goes through, it might, you poke a hole in the bottom, but if you turn it now around, you can still see the complete left side of the insect, which in basically 99% of all insects is the same as the right side. So we preserve one of the sides of the insects to look at without damaging it. This is another way we do it. This is pointing. It's called pointing, which we do the point, we put it on the side of the insect. And this is just like some acid-free cardboard. And I have a whole vial here of these things. And we have like a special tool that we punch them out with. It's like a little triangle punch. But you can just cut these guys with a scissor out, but don't make them too big. You want them fairly small, and you don't want them to be bigger than the insect themselves. And you put a little bit of glue on the tip, and then you put the side of it on the side of the insect, on the right side of the insect again. You don't want to cover anything on the top, or you don't want to really cover the bottom of the insect. So you can still observe all the morphology later. And in most cases, you want to pull the genitalia of the fireflies before you do this, so you can observe the genitalia later. If they're not pulled already, if the genitalia are not out already, that means now if I want to study the specimen and I cannot identify this, I will have to put the specimen in like either ethanol or hot water, depending on what the glue is, what you used, what the solubility is of the glue. And then I have to take the specimen off, soak it in hot water for a while to make it soft again, and then dissect the genitalia, and then I have to glue it back on. All of that is additional risk of breaking off antennae or legs or all kinds of things you could do possibly. And here's another picture of how you should do this. So here you have the pointed specimen on the left, the drawing, and here you have the labels, and it shows you it wasn't collected in Wyoming, in this county, Plateau County. You have your GPS coordinates, the date it was collected, and then kind of like some kind of location where it was collected and who collected it. It's important. And you can go as big, as many, like as much detail as you want if you have it. And you can add a second label underneath with more information, like you use the black light, use the net. It was found on this particular plant species. These are all things that you can add. And on the bottom is then this identification label I mentioned. It has the species name on the top, the person that described it in the second line, and then it gives us information. So this is a second instar. So orthopterans or grasshoppers have incomplete metamorphosis, so they do not have a pupal and a larval stage. They have nymphs, and this is the second instar. And the person sexed it, so it's a female. And here the person who did that wrote down their name. So this was Ari Fad in 1908. Or 19, yeah, it's interesting. It was caught in 1984, but identified in 1908. It's a good detail. And then in museum, we will have these all the different species that are identified in these, like what we call a unit tray, where we gather them and we keep them together. And you can get all kinds of information of all these museum specimens we have, looking back in time, and you can look at the data. If someone wrote down how they were caught and stuff, like you can infer natural history of these specimens. And so, and sometimes, you know, we have a few specimens, kind of a couple or so, and sometimes we have, you know, a few more, like 20 or 30 or so. And we can also learn a lot about distribution, like where's the species found. And so sometimes we have more specimens than others, but they're all very valuable, and we keep very good care of these things, so that death is not wasted. You know, I know it's, you know, collecting is sometimes harsh, but they all give us very valuable information, and none of these were caught in vain. And we keep very, very good care of these throughout our time, throughout their time in the museum. And every curator or every person that works there is very careful with them. And now I can try and see if the camera works for you guys, and I can pin and point a specimen so you can see how easy or not that is.
Oliver, before you
yes.
go on, you have a quick question in the Q&A about ethanol concentrations for long-term storage.
So that depends on what you wanted, what the purpose is of it. For molecular, yes, 95% ethanol. If it's for different purposes, 70% ethanol is definitely okay. I personally would not use isopropyl. There's some studies out that say it's not the best for molecular, but that's I haven't looked into that too much. I usually use ethanol though. What you have to know is that if you store, the higher the percentage of ethanol, the stiffer the insect gets for later, like taking the genitalia out or so like that, it's harder the longer it's been in alcohol. So if you want to dissect the genitalia for later, be aware of that. And what I do is I put them in hot, I boil water, and then I wait a few seconds till the bubbles are gone, and then I will put the specimen out of ethanol into the water, into the hot water, and let them sit. Depending on the size, it might take a few minutes, it might take a half an hour until the specimen and then you prod with your forceps, you can tell if it's gotten soft again for dissection. Or if you want, you can dissect the genitalia before you pickle them in alcohol. But those are all things that you have to look into before. And what I did forget is how to preserve immatures, larvae. So if you catch a larval or pupal firefly, so they're soft tissued. And what I do again is I boil water, and I put them in hot water, the very hot water, for 10 to 20 seconds, depending on size. And then I put them in ethanol after that, which the boiling breaks down the chemical reactions that still go on when they're dead. And a lot of times firefly larvae or any kind of insect larvae will turn brown or black because the proteins are still deteriorating or breaking down, and that might turn then the specimen black. So if you boil them, you have a better chance of preserving them.